Do not become the person, and I was always at risk of this. Do not become the person who gets so distracted and looks for opportunities every second and doesn't actually see all of the opportunities that are already in front of them that they've already invested time in. Hello everybody, my name is Thomas Brush. I'm the creator of a game called Pinstripe. I'm also working on a game called Once Upon a Coma, and I've been making games for about 10 years, and in May, I'll have released 2 commercial projects on pretty much every platform, and that includes Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PS4, you name it. Sometimes I get emails from questions or from subscribers, subscribers such as yourself, and it's really hard for me to answer these emails. So I figured I'd just answer a couple that really stood out. And there was one in my inbox that really, it made me think. And it made me question a lot of how I approach things in the game industry. So this is from Icero, and I know I said your name wrong, so I apologize, but I think Icero sounds cool. So Icero, thank you for your email. You said, "Hello Thomas, hope you're having a great day, and I need advice about the following. I'm currently working with multiple friends in order to make a game. It's been in the works for a year already." That's a long time. "When it first started, we were all working a lot to make this game awesome. Some people dropped out of the project during that year, some people stayed in, didn't do anything. Currently, there's 4 people working on the project. Me, the programmer, the artist, the story guy, and the musician. We're all having fun and we're memeing our game and doing funny stuff, but some of them have been working less and less. We got to the point where we didn't have any new content for 4 months. How should I keep them active? Any way I can guarantee their activity? What should I do if the artist or the musician drops out? I'm not good when it comes to those kinds of things. I'm posting updates on Discord related to progress. I'm also interested in marketing the game. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Okay, and thank you for everything, inspiration. Okay, so to answer your question about motivating your team, this has got to be probably one of the hardest things to do in business in general, motivating your employees. Now, what does a team member usually get that keeps them motivated? Money. And that's just the unfortunate truth about game development. Is when people are working for free, and I'm assuming they're working for free, Icero, and you correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But when people work for free, there's no incentive to keep going. And most indie developers, unless you're like a superhero, get burnt out by the project they're working on, especially after a year. So if there's no financial incentive, it's hard for even me, and I'm super passionate about making games, it's hard for even me to stick with it and make games. So what I would do is, let's say you don't have the ability to pay anybody. First, you need to establish who is in charge of the project. If there's no leader, if there's no creator, if there's no CEO or project leader or art director, you're gonna have a really hard time incentivizing one another. You really need one person to say, hey, I'm the captain of the ship, and here is what is on the horizon. Here's what we're trying to achieve. And so what I would do if I were you is I would say, what we're trying to achieve is $500,000 in sales, and here are the revenue shares for each member of the team, and sign this contract based on what you would like. Okay, so I would have people sign away what they want for the game. Otherwise, it's really hard to incentivize anything. So what this means is there's no real out-of-pocket cost other than time, but you're saying to the musician, you're saying, if you give me 6 songs, I'll give you 30%, which that's really high. Maybe 6 songs, you get 10% of the revenue. Net revenue, not gross, net. And you say to your programmer, you get 40%. I assume he's spending a lot of time on the game. So you're splitting up the revenue and incentivizing the completion of this project. Somebody needs to be in charge of this project. You cannot make a game if you don't have a head. Someone to say this is what we can achieve. So there's financial gain, but there's also somebody needs to be in charge, and again, probably the project leader or the art director. Somebody needs to be coming up with things that get the team excited. And that person needs to visualize what the future means for this game. So not only is it financial, it's also, hey, guys, what do you think about going to GDC? What do you think about showcasing our game at South by Southwest or PAX? Somebody needs to sort of light a fire under everybody's ass and get them excited about the project. So that's really my advice here. Financial incentive, but also, honestly, glory. What are some things that can make your team excited and enjoy being in the spotlight? So Icero, it sounds like you're the guy. You should be taking that leadership, taking charge, and incentivizing people. Most human beings don't know how to dream. And so that is ultimately one of the primary jobs of a CEO or a company's owner. It's simply to dream up and visualize what the whole company is even about. All right, I have another amazing question, and it's so simple, and I highlighted it in my inbox because I was like, I need to answer this because I love answering questions like this. This is from Luke Braderick. Mr. Braderick, I love your name. I know I butchered it. But you said, how do you stay motivated to work on a single project? I find myself wanting to start something new whenever my current project feels boring. There are two huge things that keep me motivated in making projects. The first is, honestly, boundaries. So let me explain. When you limit yourself and you sort of box yourself in creatively, it sort of forces you to finish something. I'm trying to follow what I'm saying. What am I saying? Hold on. So I have bills to pay. I have a mortgage. I have a family. I have a life. I have a daughter to take care of. I have a wife. There is plenty of responsibility on my shoulders. What that responsibility does is it boxes me in as a leader. It says, hey, Thomas, these are your parameters. You're not free to just do whatever you want. You need to do something to get the bills paid. And what that means is I have to finish my next project. And when I invest 3 or 4 months of my time in a project, I can't quit now, because that's 3 or 4 months of salary that I've spent, that I've paid myself and paid the bills for my studio and my home and my family. I have to finish the project now. So I would say that you should start self-imposing parameters on yourself, self-imposed deadlines. And one of the best ways to do that, if you don't have a family that you're taking care of, is tell family members and friends that you're gonna finish your game by X. Say like, by Q3 of 2020, I will finish my game, and tell everybody you know, everybody you hang out with, post it as loud as you possibly can on social media so that you have the risk of being embarrassed of not actually finishing that. Now, some people will say, I've read articles online where shouting your goals as loud as you can is a bad idea for X, Y, Z reasons. I don't know what the reasons are, but I know that it's worked for me. Self-imposed deadlines, putting pressure on ourselves to actually finish a project. So that's the first reason, or first way that you can stay motivated, is just telling as many people as you can, or just start a family. If you love somebody and you're afraid to get married right now because of finances, go for it. Get married. You'll be fine. Because it's great to have those limitations. It's because it forces you to actually get stuff done. And I think most Americans and Westerners specifically have trouble getting things done, having that discipline. Now, the second way that I stay motivated is Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He is very good at maybe I'll post some links or some to YouTube videos or whatever, but he loves talking about visualization. And you guys have heard me talk about this 1,000 times. But a lot of times when we're making a game, we don't actually know why we're making a game. We just had an exciting idea, but we didn't think, hey, why am I doing this? What's the point? What does it look like a year down the road? For me, I was always sort of borderline obsessive about visualization, so I tend to think about, like, to the nitty-gritty detail, what a video game's whole purpose in my life is. Why am I making this game? How much money do I want it to make, whether it's $500,000 or $1 million? What kind of notoriety do I want it to bring? What kind of conversations do I want to have with my friends when I release the game? What do I want it to feel like when I play that game on my own, like, say, Nintendo Switch? How do I want to feel? Do I want to feel excited? Do I want to have a party with all my friends when I release that Nintendo Switch game? And then I also think about what it means maybe when getting press coverage. What is Time Magazine going to cover my games, which that's happened before, or Rolling Stone, Glixel, which those are the same, Variety, or PC Gamer? What are some press outlets? And is it possible for me to wholesomely obsess about that press coverage? It's dangerous to obsess as much about, like, what am I trying to say? It can be dangerous to obsess too much about press coverage and getting notoriety. But I think overall, there is a way to think about the future and obsess about what kind of achievement you want to get from your game without it taking over your life. There's a nice balance. So I just say, sit down, close your eyes, and spend 2 hours just thinking about what you want your game to be and what you want to get out of your game. Because I promise you, if you visualize right, you're almost going to physically manifest in its own little world in your head. Physically manifest all of the things you can gain from your game. And the thought of quitting your game suddenly becomes so much more heavy, because you're going to lose all of that stuff that you manifested. Now, obviously, you can't get everything you want. So visualization is a dangerous game, honestly. It sounds kind of weird and hyper spiritual, but it's not. It's learning to obsess healthily. Is that a word? Healthily. About what you want to achieve. And most Westerners, I think Westerners specifically, because that's my culture, but most Westerners have a hard time visualizing what they want to achieve. So I would say practice both of those things. Creating dependence and limitations for yourself so that you actually have to finish something, and then learning how to visualize. All right, Luke, that was a great question. I've got time today for one more question here, and this is from, this one's a good one. I really enjoy this one. It's actually very heartfelt. This is from Johannes. Is that how you say your name? Johannes Nilsson. I think that's a really beautiful name. And again, I know I butchered it, but I think the way I said it was beautiful. Johannes Nilsson says, "My name is Johannes, and I'm 21 years old. I currently live with my parents and I don't have a job, but I am searching for one. I train 2 times a day. Cool. 5 days a week. Awesome. That's a lot. That's more than I do. And I'm trying to have a breakthrough in my sport, which is hammer throwing." Okay, we officially know, do not mess with Johannes. Hammer throwing, that's awesome. In school, I did all right until the last 3 years, where I became so uninterested that I barely could concentrate. I started procrastinating to the point of not doing assignments, so my grades became quite bad. I prefer learning stuff from YouTube videos, other internet sources, and also books. Same here. I think I like being in control over what I'm learning because I know why I'm learning it and where it's applicable. I agree that's sometimes a good trait, sometimes that's not a good trait. I feel lost in life. If I should bring up my grades or go to a university, or what should I study there? I'm interested in a lot of stuff. And what if I become uninterested and fail? Right now, I think I'm going to work until I really know what I want to do. I might start some sort of business someday. Do I have any good ideas on choosing my path? He seems to have a lot of company ideas every week. Writing a book, training, developing a game, starting clothing brands, etc., etc. Okay, Johannes, there are 2 ways to answer your question, and they are dependent on what kind of person you are. Johannes, if you finish things, if you have a track record of finishing things, and I think what that means is 3 or more projects that you have finished to completion and you did a good job, if that is your personality, then I say, don't go to school. Then I say, you should probably worry about your grades, but don't get too stressed. It sounds like you are a motivated person on your own. And I would just say it's okay to have a ton of ideas, three company ideas a week. So do I. It's okay to feel that way because, at least you're following through on something and it doesn't distract you. Now, if you're the second type of person, and I'm going to make the assumption that there's a chance that you're 21 years old, so you're still pretty young, and I'm 28, so I'm not that much older. But I will say that when I was 21, I did have a habit of throwing things at walls to see if they stick, and they don't, and then I just wasted my time. Or throwing hammers, right? Throwing hammers at walls and seeing if they stick. It sounds like you're somebody who might need to learn to focus a little bit more. And if that is the case, then I would say, hell yeah, you need to focus on your grades. Because if you can't figure that out, then I doubt that you'll be able to figure out entrepreneurship. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you really have to learn to focus on things you don't want to focus on. Do you know that 60% of my day is spent doing things that I don't want to do? Whether it's checking emails or going through spreadsheets or schedules or reaching out to sponsors or setting up a marketing plan or setting up a press list or doing some code, cleaning glitches in my games. Like, those are things I don't really want to do. But I had the discipline when I was in high school and college to finish what I started, to study, to know that even though I hated taking tests and exams, I knew that if I didn't take those exams and keep a certain GPA, I wouldn't be able to pay for my school because I'd lose certain scholarships. So there is a discipline that I've established when I was 21, 22, 23 that has served me now as an entrepreneur. So if my assumption is wrong, Johannes, that you do struggle with spending too much time throwing stuff instead of sticking with something, and I could be wrong. I know I could be wrong. But if that is the case, dude, I would recommend learning, just spend time finishing stuff, even if it sucks. And that means finishing school, getting good grades, getting great at hammer throwing, and focusing. Do not become the person. Do not become the person. And I was always at risk of this. Do not become the person who gets so distracted and looks for opportunities every second and doesn't actually see all of the opportunities that are already in front of them that they've already invested time in. So for me, I spent 5 years on Pinstripe. The reason I spent 5 years on Pinstripe, which was my first game, was because I had established discipline. And that was thankfully because of my parents. They really instilled in me a lot of discipline. That discipline was established through high school, whether it was getting good grades or working part-time jobs and learning how to do a good job at those jobs, saving up my money to be able to pay for my rent or pay for a new car. These are all things that my parents sort of forced me to do, but I'm so glad they did because it forced me to learn how to make a game over the course of 5 years. Or in the case of my next game, it's been 2.5 years of just focusing on one game, and I'm done with that game. I don't want to work on that game anymore, but I know that I need to stick with it. So congratulations on being someone who's an entrepreneur and has a ton of ideas. That is super profitable, but it's only profitable if you know how to take those ideas from a seed to a huge oak tree. And that takes time and that takes diligence. Discipline is your number one asset. And if you don't have it, good luck. All right, guys, this was really fun. If you enjoyed this video, if you thought it was helpful for me to just run through my emails and answer questions, please let me know in the comments. And if you guys really want to support me, it would really mean a lot if you headed on over. Who says that? There's a heated. I think that's The Office or something. Head on over to Patreon and support. That would really mean a lot to me. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.